Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording live stream of Hearthstone. Let's just jump in here first and make sure that there isn't the ability to see the new cards. Nope, we still cannot go into crafting mode and see the new cards. There was a live stream that showed off some of that, and we now have far more cards in the wild set than we do in the standard set, which I think even like these last three here also might all be going away. Even as far as Witchwood, I wouldn't be surprised. Like I don't know. Yeah, how far or how many are going into wild, but it seems like a lot. And so in the goodbye to the Year of the Mammoth, they've given us a one of these packs, one of these packs, and one of these packs, which it would be hard to remember. Like, isn't this a Journey with the Golden Monkey expansion, and this is Frozen Throne, and yeah, I can't even remember what these are. So we got three packs from the 3 expansions for each account. We can open them now. We might as well, because I don't think that these cards, I don't think these cards are gonna matter for very long. Like, as much as tomorrow I might be streaming, or Thursday when the new expansion comes out, and the new expansion may just come out and that'll be the first opportunity to look at the cards. If that's the case, then I still probably am just gonna do the card pack opening videos. Get a couple epics, that's nice. And yeah, so that'll we'll just look at all the cards, and I don't even know if I'm gonna even try to make deck rebuilds, so this might very well, there was only 3 cards there that were new to me. Apparently one of which being, two of them being epics. Interesting. So I did not have the cards I needed. Actually, getting one Dead Man's Hand probably won't change anything, but getting a second Primordial Drake probably will help. If I tried to do the deck rebuild using hsreplay.net, which I think I still am kind of have to do, because that HS Replays feature tells you what I can do with this 1000 dust that I have, and this 1000 dust should go up by a little bit also. Whereas the recommendation, just build the best deck you have right now, built into Hearthstone, is different. So it's Monday. Theoretically, we only have to do 2 of these. So Warlock Class cards and Paladin. Let's see. I guess we start with Paladin. And the reason we want to start with Paladin is because we're somewhat fresh. We can play ranked. Odd Paladin was winning it, so I'd like to get back up into this. Right now, a presentation is happening, so it's unlikely the Sony State of Play is not going to, I'm not going to get a lot of this news, but maybe at the end of the stream I'll come back and check my Twitter feed, and that will have something useful to say. Meanwhile, other news is, it's not a ton of news. It didn't seem like anything came out on what's on Steam this weekend. It seems like games kind of just not coming out on the weekend on Steam. this might be something that Steam is doing. This might be just something that people have realized that nobody wants games to be released on the weekend, or it just might be that the What's on Steam Twitter feed is broken again. So this is like the perfect move.
Reporting for duty.
So our first story we have here from TechRaptor is Indonesia considers a PUBG ban. This is kind of funny because inherently this is like way too late, because PUBG is the old thing, not the new thing, as it is. And I thought it was India that had 3 cities where it was straight up illegal to play Fortnite, is I believe how that one broke down. So if they're shifting from Fortnite to, do I want to waste this card, or do I just want to make him draw a card? Yeah. So, like, Fortnite bans in India probably going to affect a lot more than PUBG. So, the article says Indonesia's Communication and Information Technology Ministry is considering banning the Battle Royale PUBG. Debate has been sparked by a call from an Islamic organization in the country for a PUBG ban. So yeah, there's not really much more newsworthy, I think, to say there. Like, this is going to be my editorial opinion. If this actually happened, then I'll come back with another story saying, well, they actually banned it. If this is just political saber rattling, which it almost certainly is, then there's really nothing important to be said in that. And draw a card. In the turn? Okay. I am certainly not familiar. I guess in general, there are so many different versions of Islamic organizations and Islamic divisions, sects, as much as there are so many different versions of Protestant Christian sects, that you just can't really, as someone who's not familiar with it, I can't really get an idea on what their feeling is about any video games at all.
For justice.
And nor do I really. They're working on a FATWA to ban the game, apparently. And they're tying it into the Christchurch massacre, which, I mean, I don't really want to talk about that too much because it has nothing to do with video games, but it's blatantly obvious, and the shooter said directly, as far as I understand in his manifesto, that his intention was to include as many different things to be blamed and banned as possible, as his excuse for taking his crazy actions, to create more disharmony, I suppose, in the world. So, I mean, if this was a few decades earlier, they would be blaming that shooting on the fact that he ate sugary cereal and trying to ban sugary cereal. So they're just kind of falling into a trap and using it, which is not really acceptable. Like, and we can always, we know the problem. The problem is mental health. The problem is easy access to guns. Even New Zealand's relatively small number of guns they had in their country, they also were clearly lax on letting foreigners come into their country with guns. And they're hopefully moving to solve that problem. In the end, yeah, I can't. There definitely are Islamic groups out there that hate all things that are not directly about the worship of their religion, in the same way that there are definitely Christian groups out there that hate everything that is not directly built around the worship of their religion. So any excuse and every excuse will be used to take down those type of forms of entertainment. Some people just hate entertainment and they really shouldn't be listened to. Quite frankly, is all that boils down to. Next story, Gamatsu has an article, the free-to-play side-scroller action MMORPG Closers is coming to the PS4 mid-April in Japan. I don't know what it's really about, but it looks slightly interesting. You have this angel anime character, and but it's an MMORPG in Japan, so I wouldn't bet heavily that it's ever going to come to the West. Right. So we get rid of that, take 3 damage, kill that. Seriously? Kill that. Kill that. That. And that.
Do you like to play with fire?
Next we have an article from Tech Raptor. House Flipper, that game that was popular for a brief couple of months and kind of was popular among streamers, I think, more than actual people wanting to actually play the game. It has new DLC that allows you to flip your gardens, and I think there might be an old lady avenue here that would potentially convince people to play this. If you like tending a garden and you've become unhealthy or elderly, which is basically old ladies in my mind, the idea of virtually tending a garden while not having to go outside, go out in the heat, go out amongst allergy things, go out amongst insects, there might be something there. In the same way that House Flipper itself was a interesting idea if you like to flip houses, but was smart enough to realize that you can't really afford to flip houses unless you have a considerable amount of extra money sitting around. So here's what it looks like. You start with like a weed-ridden, overgrown yard, and then you can make it like this. I'm still not really fully convinced that House Flipper is a fully featured game enough that you'd really want to play it. It's kind of like the visceral cleanup game where there's just that's an interesting idea, and it's fun if you have several people with you playing visceral cleanup, but if you're just playing it yourself, you probably get bored after a couple hours. I do want to cover that game, but I really would just play the levels once. And then never again. I think House Flipper is kind of that way too. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. A terrifying anti-smoking game called One Leaves, that's O-N-E, Leaves, well let's just show it. One Leaves is free on Xbox One. This is an advertisement agency behind the Bully Hunters campaign. They have partnered with the FDA. Geez, to be the advertisement agency behind Bully Hunters. There was a Bully Hunters 2.0 that didn't get a lot of announcement, where it was probably not the same agency that did it, but it was parents in the UK could hire people to kill their own kids, and yeah, that's not going to get abused in the video games, so that they come to the dinner table. There's a trailer here. I'll look at it and see how scary it really is. Yeah, and that's not unkind thing to do as a parent. That's not something a parent should be doing. Hiring somebody to bully their kids out of a video game.
I fight. I fight.
Freaking. Well, I guess we can just keep playing this game. So the trailer starts with a live action video with a bunch of kids, looks like they're trapped in a hospital, and it says only one leaves, and it seems like the kids might be seeing themselves in hospital rooms.
Was merely a setback.
So this looks like it's a full motion video game, but I don't think it really is. I think it probably isn't.
Let the pain speak to me.
A fun fact to point out is that with the allowance of e-cigarettes to come to popularity, I think nearly 30 years of progress of convincing kids not to smoke was lost. So yeah, that was definitely something that should not have been allowed to happen. That was not a smart move. There is now even less regulation, or at least there was for a time, even less regulation on e-cigarettes than there were on cigarettes. So so there was just more nicotine being put in there, and more harmful chemicals in general being put in an e-cigarette. If One Leaves was on Steam though, I am free. I might consider playing it. But yeah, don't smoke, kids, I guess is about the best message anyone can say, and anyone I've ever met has specifically said never start smoking. It's horrible. Nobody likes to smoke at all. Not really. Some people will lock themselves down into saying that they like to smoke to justify the fact that they can't quit, but it's not really a true sentiment. And you know it isn't. But yeah, it'll cost you, you'll waste so much money on smoking. And nicotine is way worse and addictive than like marijuana is. So if marijuana is legal and you must smoke something, you can casually smoke marijuana, from what I hear, once a year and not be addicted. If you even take one puff on a cigarette, that might be enough to have you completely addicted for the rest of your life.
Disappointing.
Alright.
The battle! The battle! The battle! The battle! The battle! The battle! Thumbs up. Let's do this.
Moving on, Tech Raptor. See, if this guy has Mechathune, he's gonna win potentially, but I don't know how he's gonna play all his cards. Tech Raptor has an article. Sony will stop providing digital download codes to retailers on April 1st. I assume this is a not an April 1st joke, April Fool's Day joke. That is coming up, and we'll have to be careful about announcements around that.
I'm out of cards.
Let's see. Well,
The battle.
I'm just going to leave that guy on the field.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Like, my hope is that if he has Mechathune, this wouldn't mess him up in some way. I don't know why it would mess him up, but
The time has come.
so yeah, if Sony is not giving digital codes to digital games anymore on Steam, well, no, this has nothing to do with Steam. That means the game stores are then going to be in a different position as far as as far as just not having less to sell. See, the only thing I could think he's doing is he's trying to get all of the 4 horsemen in his hand using the panda bears.
Death was merely a setback.
So did he get all 4 and I was just not paying attention?
I return.
He got it? Yeah, I did.
No peace, no rest.
Interesting strategy. Well, I would have won though without that strategy. I'm actually having to really play games nowadays. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Nintendo reveals its best indie games on Switch. Let's see if we can get the full list here. Is top 10 is... These aren't listed numerically, but Stardew Valley, Hollow Knight, Overcooked 2, Undertale, Dead Cells, Enter the Gungeon, Graceful Explosion Machine. That one stands out as one I don't remember or recognize. Celeste, Golf Story, and Overcooked.
None will survive.
I would argue a lot of these games, these indies, were released earlier than the other ones, so so this might just be not a fair comparison as much as it might seem.
Reporting for duty.
But yeah, that feels like that is just all the major games from the first wave of indies released on this Switch. I don't think that there's really a quality mention here because Overcooked 1 and Overcooked 2 both being on the list, I think for a lot of people, if you don't have friends, you wouldn't really want to be playing Overcooked at all.
The battle.
So
The battle.
I think the sales numbers might just be a little deceptive there.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, I can tell I really don't have a lot of games on that came out at all to talk about. It's just all news. And we may have a shorter experience, although I've said that dozens upon dozens of times, and it's never actually worked out that way. Let's see. Hit this and this.
Reporting for duty.
And then just end the turn. Gematsu is republishing a Wall Street Journal article. So their Gematsu's article is Wall Street Journal. Nintendo to release 2 new Switch models as early as summer. A high-end and a casual models reportedly planned.
It's playtime.
I could see doing a high-end, depending on what a high-end means. And I could see maybe a portable one that doesn't connect to a TV or doesn't have the Joy-Cons removed at all. But otherwise, I don't know what you're really changing. You're making minor changes at best, because it's going to be something like, oh, the screen is smaller on the casual model, or the screen is bigger on the high-end model. I don't think you can really change the processor or the amount of RAM. You can change the amount of storage inside of it, and that almost certainly needs to be done. Particularly for the Switch, since it was this middle-of-the-road light device as far as its hardware power. I could see phasing out the original Switch for 2 different versions, which would be a weird way to go, but you know, that would work.
I fight.
Just gonna kill that to make sure that's dead.
Job done.
See if there's anything more in this article. Yeah, there's no real details in this article though about what it is or what it means, or what the different models would be.
The light protects me.
Do I want to kill something so I can just play something else? I don't think I need to do that. Yeah.
Job done.
Let's see. We do have at least one game here on Steam, but yeah, I don't think it's gonna be too many. So we have this game on Steam called The Jolly Gang's Misadventures in Africa. This looks like a... well, it's not actually Squiggle Vision, but it looks like a cheap animation from Adult Swim. Early adult animation. Maybe not even Adult Swim animation. Let's see. The thing about this game is it's $5.59 discounted, and it's English and Russian, which does not bode well in my opinion. Let's see what else this developer has made. Hidden object bundles that are highly positive. So this is the beginning of that series, it seems. And it's the same company that's publishing it as the same person.
Move quickly.
I'll give this one a chance and follow it, because
The battle.
it seems like there's a decent chance there.
Reporting for duty.
Repent. I fight.
Took too long.
Unleash me.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna kill several people.
In the light.
I needed to have played this.
Reporting for duty.
And
The Frostborn will
that.
stand ready.
And we'll just kill that guy. And kill that guy. And we'll do the rest of this. Next we have a game on Steam called Butcher Box, which looks like it's a empty Square Arena first-person shooter game. Let's see. Has kind of a Borderlands texture style and on it, but that's kind of it. This looks pretty boring as far as the game. You spend like 5 minutes in this and you'd be done. I assume these are just all pre-bought assets. This is 59 cents discounted, so yeah, that's not of any interest at all. Let's see. This
Reporting for duty.
and then that.
The might of Stormwind.
I fight.
That minion already attacked.
The battle. The battle.
And then that. See, I guess Mondays might just always be the short days. I can't really figure out a way to make Fridays the short days because that's where all the news comes out, unless I just don't talk about news and save up for Mondays. I would have to basically say something along the lines of, oh, I'm not going to do all the daily quests on Friday even though they need to be done, just to give myself a break.
Speak your peace.
One of the things I have been doing, it's kind of nice, is that where I'm more taking entire weekends slowly, or if not completely off.
For justice.
So
The battle.
there's like,
The battle.
so I'm definitely taking it easier than I used to. Of course, I'm also making less content. I didn't even talk about the fact that I finished Cube 2. Compared to Cube 1, QUB is the name of the game. A quick understanding of block extrusion. Cube 2 is way better improvement on that. They switched it over from, I believe, the Unity engine to the Unreal Engine, and that didn't probably change too much other than the way it looked in its lighting and its graphics. But they just put more work into it, made all the puzzles feel a lot more play tested.
This time.
Apparently he saw a way to victory that I wasn't seeing. The story is better in Cube 2 because you actually do have a point where you can make a decision, go left, go right. We just need to play Warlock cards then now, and I'm just going to play ranked and hope I win. So at the very end of the game, there's not a checkpoint to the very end of the game, so you have to play through the entire last chapter, which is just about 3 kind of long puzzles. But once you figured out how to do it once, the very last puzzle actually to solve was glitched, because I assume because I left my game running for the entirety of the time and I was playing the DirectX 12 version. Those are the 2 reasons that I would guess. It was just glitched, and so it was just not working. Like, I was doing the solution and the action that was supposed to happen was not happening. So I had to exit the game and reload it, and when I reloaded it, it worked. So yeah, Cube 2, good. Maybe you don't even need to play the director's cut of the first game. The story in the director's cut, which was added in the director's cut because Cube 1 really didn't have a story, does connect, but it's not the same characters or anything, so it doesn't really matter. And I would say it seems like Toxic Games probably disappeared. Like, their specific Steam account hasn't been online for 68 days. The DLC season pass for it that gives you 2 puzzle levels says they've only finished 1 puzzle level, but then when I went to their website directly, it said that both level packs had been done. So I don't know if you bought the season pass, which I didn't buy. And there's something to be said about that. The season pass is $13. I probably only paid $10 for Cube 2 or less. So having to pay potentially more money than it costs for the original game for the season pass is asking a lot of money a lot of time. Also, Toxic Games fully funded and published the first game, it seems, by themselves, and then had to have like several other people fund the sequel, which I suspect that means that they are going to have a hard time funding a 3rd game in the series, which you certainly could do a 3rd game in the series. In the same way you could make a Portal 3, but do you really need to? But yeah, it was a good value compared to like Magnetic Cage Closed, which was a terrible game. Yeah. I still would heavily recommend playing Portal 1 and Portal 2 if you haven't played that, and then play the Talos Principle. And then, if you still want 3D puzzle platformer games, play Cube 1, the Director's Cut, and then play Cube 2. I would not recommend playing Magnetic Cage Closed at all.
Your magic shall not save
But also, that is a good indicator that there really isn't any new 3D puzzle platformer that's come out in the last couple of years. Although Cube 2 came out in 2018, so it's about a year past the point when they stopped updating. So yeah, we're not in a long-running drought. It's just there's nothing else I can think of. And I don't know how many of those games you can do because they all have about the same generic story. So once you realize that they all have the same generic idea of a story, then there's kind of nothing new to be said or nothing new to be shown. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Jinkyo Powerful Pro Baseball for the Switch launches June 27th in Japan. This is the small bobblehead baseball game. I think this series has been translated to English and taken to the West, so I wouldn't be surprised if it comes to the West too. It has a slight problem in that it won't have the licensed names of characters that are recognizable in the United States baseball field, but that's kind of the only issue. And I don't know if you really do need licensed names for a baseball game.
very useful.
I off the top of my head cannot name any famous pitcher or batter that's playing baseball these days. Babe Ruth is the last one I think I can remember. Personally, I kind of feel like baseball has lost the interest of people in the United States over the past decade or so. It's just just not something people are interested in anymore because it's too long of a pastime. Okay, so one more victory, I get a win streak, I'm back up to 13. Oh, by the way, my secondary account, I finally brought it up to rank 20 so I could do tavern brawls, so I've now put myself in the unenviable position where every time there's a tavern brawl, there's yet another account I could go play and get a pack and try to make my secondary account a little bit more competitive. And I went through it and I dusted all the wild cards and tried to craft all the cards that are about to be moved to the Hall of Fame to get that free dust too. I didn't have enough dust to create all of the legendary ones though. Yeah, but mostly my secondary account is not a focus, so I doubt I really would every week go and try to get another pack just to keep it building. There's been at least a year where I've ignored it, and so I don't think that account would ever get anywhere. The weird thing is you kind of need a boosted account to play Hearthstone the way it's set up. You need to have at least one character at rank 20 the first game you play. That way you have unlocked all the cards and you can actually not have to go through an insane grind that is just going to drive everybody crazy and to quit very early.
Why do you call?
Yeah. The onboarding for new players is still pretty bad on Hearthstone. Gematsu has an article, this week's Japanese game releases. There's a list here, we could go through them. I don't think it really matters to go through this though, come to think of it. Yeah, because this is really just a list of games that I've probably already mentioned their release date for, or it doesn't matter anyways if I haven't mentioned their release date, because they're going to very possibly be only Japanese releases, so that doesn't really affect my mostly Western audience. Gematsu has a different article. Sega Ages Puyo Puyo launches March 28th in Japan, so it includes online play and more. So here's the Puyo Puyo screenshot. Puyo Puyo Tetris, or they don't call it Tetris, they just call it Puyo Puyo. It's a slightly different version of Tetris. Is a game that gets slightly that gets changed and by quite a lot in its art style when it comes over to the West, so you get a very different looking game. As for Sega Ages Puyo Puyo, a Western release was planned for February alongside with Sega Ages Gain Ground, but neither title was ever released and new dates have not been announced, so either those games were completely cancelled or something else happened. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article here. Anthem became the best-selling game of February with $100 million in digital revenue. I've heard people say Anthem though really was a good enough game to play until no, I think they were actually talking about Apex Legends. They made too many games that start with the letter A back to back. Alright, well, I don't want to do that one then, so I'm gonna play this.
Job's done.
And, like, Anthem apparently was the best selling game because there was nothing else on. I mean, that's really all I can guess. Like, it just did a very good job of scheduling itself. But now the Division 2 is out, and
In the light's name.
because of the Division 2, I imagine everybody who was playing Anthem has moved over to the Division 2. And now that Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is out, I think a lot of people who are playing the Division are going to move on to that. So, there really are two kinds of video game players. People who move with their friends to the next big thing until they find something that they really like and want to stick with, which is becoming increasingly less common. And then there are single player people who buy a game and can't afford to buy another game for 6 months, so they're gonna have to play it like crazy. And while a lot of games like Anthem and the Division 2 are designed for people who are intended to not play any other game, the truth comes down to there's actually not that many people like that anymore. That's it's not working. The games as service concept is failing miserably to actually keep people on one game for a long time, because games as service really has just been boiled down to we're releasing an unfinished product, and if you are the 10% of suckers that buy that game and can't move on to the next thing, you're gonna just suffer for a very long time until we decide to actually fix our buggy game.
Your magic shall not save you.
Remember, I'm supposed to be playing Warlock cards right now.
Your soul is mine.
Yeah, it's actually very surprising to say Anthem became the best-selling game of February, but I guess there really wasn't anything else big AAA coming out in February. I remember January and February was a horrible experience this year. There's like nothing to say as far as video game news, nothing to say as far as games that have come out. Nice.
You shinies.
I don't know if I can do all of this, but let's do this,
In the
this,
light's name.
and this,
It's playtime.
and attack that. Gamma Sutra has an article. PUBG Corporation and NetEase settled the Battlegrounds lawsuits. So this was PUBG Corp took NetEase to court back in April of 2018 and accused the Chinese company of replicating audio and visual elements from Battlegrounds in their mobile game Knives Out, Rules of Survival.
You have
So,
no idea what I'm capable of.
basically, PUBG felt that NetEase stole their audio and visual elements, which almost certainly they did. Like, I can't even give a Chinese company the benefit of the doubt. That is just how it has come down. And maybe that's not accurate, but that's certainly what I've heard from every Western game developer anywhere. So it's not just a United States thing, it's also a everybody thing. Everybody in Europe that makes games says China steals, and I'm sure China will feign offense and say they don't. There you go, let's take the victory. The win streak did not get me back up to 13. So we still have to play 17 Warlock cards. So next we have a game on Steam called Line Loops Logic Puzzles, which this is a single screen Unity game. I hate the gradient. I don't know why people think that that is smart. This is a game where you can only have one line touching each of the boxes with 1, 2 lines have to touch boxes with 2 in it, 3 lines have to touch boxes with 3. So this that's filled in right now doesn't have 1 line in it, and same is true for all these other filled in numbers, and so you have to draw a shape. It's not a terrible idea. It's not well depicted as a single screen Unity puzzle game. And this is the counter side to something like Portal or Cube, is that you could certainly make a logical puzzle game and put very little effort into it and make a single screen Unity game. This is $3.99, and it says thousands of puzzles. You wouldn't really get through 1,000 puzzles, let's be honest. That's not gonna happen. You'd probably only get through a few hundred of them, and that is just asking way too much money for what you're offering. So let's draw a card. Gamasutra has an article here. EA signs a publishing deal with Vicarious Visions founders. Velen Studios, a new studio created by the former Vicarious Visions founders Guha and Karthik Bala, have signed a deal with EA to publish their first game. Yeah, I was like, what did Vicarious Visions make? Like, that's not something I've heard of.
In the light's name.
Someone call for the doctor.
That's incredible.
Let's see. The Ballers formerly founded Vicarious Visions in 1990, and the studio is best known for working on titles like Guitar Hero series, the Skylanders series, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and Destiny 2. So, seems like they are a secondary third-party company that does support work, or Vicarious Vision was. How about we do that, and then do that, and then do that, and then do that, and then we end the turn. Well, they messed up my scheme there, but shouldn't be a big deal. Let's play this. Here, 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 here. And just attack there. Let's see. No further information about the unannounced game was talked about. So EA has signed with a small company, a new company, to publish some new game that they have like no details about at all. Alright, we're halfway through rank 13. Let's see if we can get to rank 12. Gamasutra has an article. Get a job. DeepMind is hiring a games designer. So if you want to be a games designer at DeepMind, that is located in London, England, the United Kingdom, that job is available to you. Although I will editorialize here and say I don't know if now is a good time to work in the UK amid all of the questions around Brexit. Moving on, TechRaptor has this article. Void VR tackles suicide in the latest experience, I'm Fine. So it's called I'm Fine VR Suicide Awareness Experience. I'm not sure I frankly would trust a video game developer to appropriately present that story and safely present that story. There is a danger certainly talking about suicide in general, because it tends to get into people's heads, and if somebody is already in a suggestible state, it might stick in their head and echo around and grow bigger until it straight happens. There is scientific evidence that says that when someone around you that you know commits suicide, you're statistically higher to commit it yourself. And there's actually recent news I don't want to mention that is causing that to seemingly happen as we're speaking. So yeah, I think mental health, even well-meaning games like this, mental health awareness things probably shouldn't be done by people just making games on itch.io, which is where this game is for free. But they're also taking donations and then donating those donations to suicide prevention organizations across the world. So that's another one of those scenarios where you really don't know where the money is going. They're just saying it's going somewhere, and you have no way of proving one way or the other if that's true.
Time runs out on me.
Seems like we might have a dead player, which would be cool. Let's see.
Face the light.
Let's see. Actually, we got several stories around death today, on a weird coincidence. But yeah.
Your magic shall not save you.
I would also, and this is going to be a controversial hot take, I would also say that the conversation around suicide is the wrong conversation, because it's a just don't do it, things will get better, this is a temporary feeling. That's not always true. Like, if we put medical assisted suicide on the table and said, look, here are the real people that should do this action, what you're feeling right now is not in line with these people, because only a few people really begrudge a 90-year-old man from being able to overdose on morphine or something and pass away peacefully in his sleep. What we're really concerned about is angsty teenagers doing it. In fact, most people don't even care if it were a 26-year-old person that committed suicide. Except for their friends and families, of course, depending on the situation. So, if we're teaching basically an abstinence-only policy on suicide, in the same way that we're teaching, in the United States at least, an abstinence-only pregnancy prevention strategy, if we said, here's some permanent factors, here's a pros, here's a cons list, here's how you could logic yourself out of this emotional feeling, I think that is a message that might resound around other people, because it's easy to get wrapped up in the emotional responses, but and not even consider the logical responses. But I guess that's really just a personal opinion. And so if you want to, everybody's aware of suicide, so awareness is the wrong thing. We should teach logic and everything, I would say, and perhaps talk about people who and maybe even have debates about, here's an example of somebody that we think deserves the dignity to die peacefully instead of suffer for the rest of their life with no hope of getting better. Of course, that may be an incredibly depressing class to take, so that might not help anything. Moving on to the next story, which is also around death. GameIndustry.biz has the Take-Two founder Ryan Brandt has died. The publisher expressed his condolences and gratitude for Brandt for his vision and contributions. He died at the age of 49. It was announced by a funeral service in West Palm Beach, Florida. The question here is, was there anything that indicated this was going to happen, or is this just a straight surprise to everyone? Because there is a significant amount of people who have like terminal illness in the video game industry that get more coverage than regular people at regular jobs who have terminal illnesses. Let's see. Brandt founded Take-Two in 1993 and served as a company until February 2001. Take-Two also was around the rumors of being acquired by Sony. He stepped down as CEO in 2001 but stayed on with the company as chairman for several years and then took a non-executive role as VP of production until parting ways with the company in 2016. In 2007, Brandt reached a settlement with the SEC and pled guilty to the New York County District Attorney's Office to charges related to stock option backdating practices during his time as CEO and chairman. So he was one of the guys at Take-Two that was doing insider trading or stock option manipulations, which is why I was heavily suspicious of the news that Sony was potentially going to acquire Take-Two. I was like, that doesn't sound right. But maybe the people in charge now don't do that, but I guess. Yeah, there's nothing here that indicates how he died, though, so who knows what the reason is. And that's the problem with any kind of obituary or anything, is that you're often not given the right facts. It's like, how did he die? And usually it's always an embarrassing way that they died. The irony of ironies would be that he killed himself, but after all that suicide talk, but it's no evidence to that. For all I know, just had a heart attack. He severe malnutrition or something like that. Who knows?
Let the hunt begin. Your soul shall be mine.
Let's just keep on playing. Next, we have an article we already talked about. Gamma Sutra has the same article. Sony is pulling digital PS4 games from sale at GameStop and other retailers, which could mean a couple different things, I suppose. You could take that a couple different ways. It could mean that the PlayStation 5 is about to be announced and that's why they're pulling the codes. It could be that Sony just wants to make all the money and not give a percentage to these stores.
Greetings, traveler.
It was kind of my understanding that you weren't really even making a lot of profit by selling the game codes, that maybe they weren't even getting a percentage cut at all, that the stores weren't. That would be weird, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was like 1%, 5%, not anywhere close to a 30% cut for the sales code, and they were just doing it because of the because it brought people into a store. And now GameStop and other stores are going to have even less to put on the shelves, which I guess that's the way in which video game stores are going to go anyways, is we're going to continuously have less and less games that come out in physical versions, and less games that people would actually go to a store to get in physical versions. As someone who's been a PC gamer now for a very long time, I haven't gone to a store to buy a video game in an extremely long amount of time. The only thing that kind of makes sense is if you have a video game store and you have little kids and you want to buy used games and try to save some money there. But even used games are often not cheaper, or often they're even more expensive than just waiting till a Steam sale happens or a Humble Bundle happens to get the game on PC.
I don't have enough mana.
Okay.
In the light's name.
Draw the card first. Then draw this card. Then in return. Next, Gematsu has an interesting story. This one is really surprising because a sequel to Beneath a Steel Sky has been announced, called Beyond a Steel Sky, for consoles, PC, and Apple devices. It's a dystopian cyberpunk adventure game due out in 2019. Now, Beneath a Steel Sky is a game that you very possibly would be familiar with if you've done the Scum VM emulator, done anything with that, because it is like completely free to play with if you're interested, and it's an old point and click game, one of the earliest, and it's a fine story, but it kind of, I can't really remember the ending, but I think the ending kind of wrapped it up. So throughout the game, you start at the very top of the world and you have to work your way down to the bottom of the world, and you have to get like key cards to go down elevators, and there's really only like 3 or 4 sections of the world. What is being shown here, it really doesn't match what Beneath a Steel Sky looks like, but it really couldn't. So let's show it off. Like, the idea, I imagine, is they've taken a very loose concept and they're continuing this, but you'd almost have to remake the original game to match this artistic style, which looks way different. It's from Revolution Software, and it's, I think, in part being funded by Apple due to Apple announcing this Apple Arcade service. I kind of wish that they had a screenshot of what the original game looked like, and I doubt you're playing as the character from the first game. Right. I'm looking for a 1 mana thing. Well, that didn't work. Let's save ourselves some frustration and kill that first. So there's a trailer here. So it's kind of all over the place, because now you've got this game from like 25, maybe 30 years ago getting a sequel, which really means just any game that has ever been made could get a sequel. If there was a new Hugo's House of Horrors game or a new E.T. from Atari game, I would not be surprised. Looking at the trailer, this is not just a 3D version of a point-and-click adventure. You've got some kind of scanner tool that you're reprogramming things to open passageways. So there's more puzzles to it. It seems like there's some kind of birds that will follow you in some section. The logo looks somewhat reminiscent of the logo of the original game. Yeah, you could just constantly make sequels to old games as long as the company still exists. The problem, of course, is the Most of those companies don't exist. Yeah. So this guy thinks I've lost. So Variety also has an article. It seems like Revolution Software. Alright, we're up to rank 12. Let's see, let's come over here and show this off first. This is a reward worth being happy about. Like, the month is about to end too, so even getting up to any higher, I'll just run out of time. So here's a Variety screenshot of Beyond the Steel Sky, or I imagine that's not actually a screenshot as much as just a concept art. There will be other people you're talking to.
Fight with honor. Your soul shall be mine.
Yeah. Interesting. Very, very interesting. The Apple video game service, I don't know if there's really a lot of trust that I would have in Apple. Apple is not as bad as Google to start something and then give up on it. And if anything, Apple is kind of known for not starting things unless they are willing to at least commit to them. I'd say like the Apple Watch is a great example of that, because while the Apple Watch hasn't been an amazing success, it's made them money, and they will almost certainly make a new Apple Watch every 4 to 8 years and convince more people to buy it, even if it's only a slight improvement. And the same is true for the iMac machines and the Macintosh computers. Is like they recently got an upgrade, and they're not amazingly great upgrades, but they're good enough to keep Apple fanboys buying their products. So they're leading from behind in a lot of ways with their technology. So if they're getting into video games on their streaming devices, that is because they are leading from behind and copying what Google Stadia is trying to do, I imagine, and they might succeed because of that. One's a little iffy. That one's a hard one to get a feeling on. Let's see, is there anything else I can do? No, we just have to play.
It's playtime.
Would I want to get onto Apple's streaming video game service, or would I recommend people get into that? No. But if you already have all Apple products, if you are an Apple fanboy, if this is at some point just going to become, oh, I have an iTunes account, and because I have the iTunes account I get these games, that would be cool. That being said, there's also some questions to be asked about what level of quality is are the games going to be on the Apple service. I haven't seen a lot about it yet, but if it is just, yes, it can do 3D point-and-click adventure games, but no, it can't do fighting games, no, it can't do first-person shooter games, no, it can't do open-world games, that's a problem. That's the same problem with Google Stadia. If it can't do all the games that are getting made, then it's basically a worthless product.
Again.
Let's see. I'm just trying to draw every card possible. Next we have a game on Steam called Sheep Collision. It's literally just assets of sheep in a round pen attacking each other, and sometimes you knock the fence down and knock them over the edge. And that's pretty much it. It's a low effort game for $9.89. I imagine the controls control awful, and that is supposed to be the selling point on it. So yeah. Nothing Nothing gonna happen with that. This. This. Draw a card. Man, it's taken a really long time to get one of these. Both of those services, which maybe Apple just announced the service and they always had it in their back pocket. Both of those services are very iffy, like Google Stadia and Apple Arcade. Apple Arcade's name sounds a lot better. Let's see. And you know, Google Stadia should just be called Google Play Games.
Reporting for duty.
And that would make way more sense. They already have Google Play. So freaking just call it Google Play Games and you've got it. That is also though part of the problem is that I'm gonna kill this guy just to be certain. Is what is going to be on Apple Arcade just a bunch of iOS cell phone mobile games, because the cell phone mobile games on Apple, to my understanding as somebody who doesn't use an Apple product, is not any better than the games
That was a mistake.
on any other mobile platform. So if you see a lot of things that can be played on Apple TV but they're terrible, that's not really gonna answer or help anything. Just drawing more cards. I'm getting myself dangerously low in life. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. It says he cleared the field. All that set up and he cleared the field. Alright. Start over. So TechRaptor has this article. Conglomerate 451 melds classic dungeon crawling with cyberpunk. Conglomerate? I guess that's how you spell conglomerate, and I guess I've never seen it written. When is this game out? Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't seem like it has a release time, so this is kind of a hype article. I'll watch the trailer, but just because I don't have a lot of news today. I don't even know what I can do. I guess I can do this. And I can do this. And I can do this. And in the turn. Yeah, it looks like this trailer is mostly just a cutscene, unless the game is very different from what I think it is. Yeah, the first part of the trailer was really just a cutscene, and then it's a dungeon crawler game that has 3D graphics instead of your usual dungeon crawler looking game that has a bunch of anime characters in it. Let's see. Do we have enough to do this? If I play this, and then this, this, and then that.
Job done by the
turn. Gamer Sutra has a blog here. Game software hardware could top 200 billion by 2023 despite short-term questions. This is really just an opinion piece on Gamer Sutra, but it's an interesting idea. Gamatsu has an article. Apple Arcade game subscription service announced includes new games from Hironobu Sakaguchi and more. Maybe I need to show that name. Hironobu Sakaguchi. So supposedly it's playable on some kind of PC or iMac and iBooks and tablets and iPhones. I'm gonna have to actually read more of this though. This thing is killing me, I think.
Your magic shall not save you.
Okay. Let's kill this. Kill this. And give him 1 damage. And then kill this.
I'm almost
Let's see.
cards.
Apple has announced Apple Arcade service, a game subscription service that will feature over 100 new and exclusive games. Although I don't know how they're exclusive when Beyond the Steel Sky said specifically it's coming to consoles and other things, including original releases from Hironobu Sakaguchi. I imagine that name is more familiar to Japanese people. Kinwong Willwright and dozens of more. Finally, finally I have the card that I wanted.
I'm out of cards.
Every game is an all-you-can-play, ad-free, without additional purchase, and playable offline. So that's all the things you could worry about. Is it a timed release? It doesn't have ads. Does it have in-app purchases? And is it playable offline? Okay. And I guess we're kind of getting that answer. So we're probably only going to make it to rank 12. I don't see a real reason to do this one right now. Let's save that for Wednesday. And let's move over to the European account. Let's see. Apple is handpicking the Apple Arcade games lineup, as well as working closely with developers to contribute to development costs to bring said games to life. The service will feature titles from Annapurna Interactive, Bossa Studio, Cartoon Network, Finja, Giant Squid Studios, Clay Entertainment, Konami, Lego, Mr. Walker Corporation, Sega Snowman, Utswu Games, and dozens more. The thing I think you run into in this is who wouldn't partner with Apple in some part? Like, that's just not an answer, a phone call you don't answer. Even if you're not gonna give them your best game, you would suspect that there's probably a lot of people on Apple products that don't play video games that you might convince to play video games, and that might be a new audience. Also, if you're a video game developer and since video game developers tend to love censorship / curated experiences, the idea of being on an Apple service that feels like it's going to be a curated experience in the sense that there won't be as much competition as Steam, that might be another thing that appeals to them. So yeah, again, because of the end of the year of the Mammoth, we got these 3 packs. And I suspect all of these will get dusted, but maybe not since this is a European account. In all honesty, if Beyond the Steel Sky is the most is the most recognizable game or the most interesting game on the service, that's not a lot. Of course, Apple could just spend more money, and look at how much dust I have. Ridiculous. I have so much dust. Yeah, it's gonna be weird because the European and Asian account may end up having more more cards in the newer sets than anything else. Let's just play Hunter, I suppose. Ranked Hunter is all I think it matters. Hunter, ranked, play. Let's go. So, over here, the games listed here on Gematsu is Beyond the Steel Sky. That was the program here, by the way. That pop-up box. And then we have Enter the Constructs. I have no idea what that is. A game called Phantazine. This looks like a more anime game. Let's see. A new game from the creator of Final Fantasy. Mistwalker, built on real world dioramas, which were then photographed and added to with 3D characters. So is that actually even a game? Interesting. I guess I'll keep all those cards. Next we have Hot Lava Don't Touch, which we've seen several of these games. Lego Brawls from Red Games, not from TT Games, Warner Brothers. So this is not a TT standard Lego game. I'm not sure if that would be well received. Oceanhorn 2 Knights of the Lost Realm. Yeah, most of these never heard of. The Pathless from Annapurna game. Surreal Mythic Adventure, Hunter and Eagle explore vast forested island to dispel a curse. Yeah, these seem like these are probably going to be pretty basic games. Projection First Light. This looks like a Limbo clone and there's no description. Sonic Racing. Yeah, that might be a top seller. Where Cards Fall. I don't know how this doesn't just end up being a example of a bunch of games that are a premium service on top of just the buying regular games on the iTunes store, the Apple store, whatever it's. I don't even know what it's called these days. Right. This, and then this. And this one has rush, so we want to kill that one first. And while we're at it, we want to hit that one, and then hit that one, and then do that. Let's see, next we have, well, that's it. Other games are The Artful Escape Without Pictures, Atone, Heart of the Elder, The Bradwell Conspiracy, Card Apocalypse, Doomsday Vault, Down in Bermuda, Box Project, Frogger, Toy Vault, Hitchhikers, Kings of the Castle, Lego's Art House from Lego Systems AS, which this might be the augmented reality thing that was presented before. Lifelike. Let's see.
I wonder.
Do we do this now? Or do we wait? Let's do this now. just hit one of these guys just for good measure. More games. Lifelike, Lil Orpheus, Moonimals, Monominals, Mr. Turtle, No Way Home, Overland, Repair, Sayonara Wild Hearts, Sneaky Sasquatch. I feel like some of these are definitely Japanese-centric games or Asian-centric games compared to... So there's probably going to be a bit of a mix in all of that. Sneaky Sasquatch, Spidersaurus, UFO on Tape, First Contact, Winding Worlds, and Yaga. Let's see. There's some videos here. So that is a very unimpressive list of games because none of them have any name recognition. Maybe that stops being an issue as these games come out and there's more to say about them. Or maybe that is still consistently an issue. Let's see, what do I want to do? I could kill this and then I'd have nothing. I could do this. I need to be able to do this and this. So I'm gonna do this. And just leave it at that. Yeah. There's another video. One of these games looks a lot like Zelda, but it's not. All of these games look like Unity games. They don't look terrible or anything, but they do have kind of that soft CG, cel-shaded look to them compared to an Unreal game, which goes for the hyper-realistic appearance. Let's do this. Alright. Now before I kill that, these have charge. Does anything have rush? No. 2, 4, 6. Hit that. Let's see, hit that, and hit that, and hit that. Yeah, so far unimpressive, and I'm not getting a full list of what these games are going to be playable on. It says here in the article, the service will launch across iOS, macOS, and tvOS devices in the fall in over 150 countries, which tells me that that is not, it's not coming to just online streaming, and it's not coming to any other platforms or PC, Windows PC or anything. And frankly, most of those games, with the exception of Beyond the Steel Sky, which is coming to PC, aren't at a level where that would really matter. Now, as a person who has too much Legos for his age, the AR Lego ability to scan some of those expert sets with a iPad is something I probably would like to get, so I probably will at some point get an iPad, but it's not a high priority, frankly. And even Lego has shifted kind of away from that, and they're not exclusively putting AR into just Apple products. They have a whole, I think it's called Beast Hunters or Ghost Hunters or something, series that's coming out where you can scan it with any kind of mobile device. and unlock mini games. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article, Dead Cells has passed 1 million sales and Switch leads the way on consoles. So okay, Dead Cells has passed 1 million sales. There is something to be said about how much of a sucker people are. The Dead Cells, to my understanding, is still in early access and 1 million people bought it. So the whole idea of don't buy things until they're finished is really not sinking. Let's see. It came on to Steam Early Access May 2017. And then it launched on the Switch, PS4, and Xbox One in August of 2018. I am fairly certain it's still early access. Even now.
To my side. Job's done.
I do want to play Dead Cells. Like, no real insult to Dead Cells, but it is ridiculous, certainly. TechRaptor has an article here. XCOM 20th Anniversary Franchise List, and if this is what I think it is, it would be very useful to have this. So it's telling you the XCOM games in the order that they exist, so that you know which ones to play. Let's see. If I do this, there's a chance I die. Yeah, actually there's a chance I die regardless. So, yeah, I screwed up. I need to play this as a distraction so that I can play this. So I can kill this so I can get it up. Yeah. I still could die, but now that this is pumped up, there's less chance of that. So the order on TechRaptor is UFO, Enemy Unknown, aka XCOM UFO Defense, and then XCOM Terror from the Deep, then XCOM Apocalypse, then XCOM Interceptor, then XCOM First Alien Invasion. I'm not sure all these games really need to be played. Seeing how many there are now, I think I probably will just do quick looks at these things instead of proper videos. XCOM Enforcer, then XCOM Alliance was cancelled, and then XCOM Enemy Unknown in 2012 is probably where you would restart the game and just play that. And then the Bureau XCOM Declassified, and then XCOM Enemy Within, and then XCOM 2 in 2016, XCOM 2 War of the Chosen in 2017. Seriously, do I have to do this? I guess I kinda do. I need to see if I can adapt this to Poison. And so XCOM War of the Chosen 2017 is the latest one. So that is a order, certainly. And I think I probably own a lot of those games. Although, in all fairness, like, this is XCOM Apocalypse, so this looks nothing like the recent XCOM games. So, yeah, hard to make that argument. Let's go in the turn. Let's see. Gamasutra is owned by the same parent company as GDC, so take that with a grain of salt. That they have an article saying GDC celebrates a record-breaking attendance and locks in 2020 dates. GDC happened. A lot of people came to it. Let's see, 29,000 industry professionals came together, and circle jerk, basically, for the most part. A little bit of other stuff happens, certainly, but not a lot. Like, maybe the lesser reported on events and presentations actually do teach people a thing or two about how to program, but I don't feel like any of the presentations at GDC or any other convention really is going to be a master class that is in depth about this is how we programmed in Unreal, this is how we programmed in Unity, we use this code and this code and this code. It's more top level generic speak. It's like maybe a few pie charts are shown, but probably no real corporate secret information that would actually be helpful. And then it's weird to have two of the main first presenters, one being the CEO of Double Fine, start on the weird side of saying, talking about the Christchurch massacre and saying that this is our moral imperative now to get rid of all those toxic gamers, which is kind of what it is. Like, it's weird to start a game developers conference and say screw the people who play our games, and that's kind of what happened. I'm certainly narrowing down what was said to a very generic statement, but it's not really a misrepresentation from what I saw. When you could have easily just refused to speak about it, because there's nothing that you can say about that at all as a video game developer, and you could just focus on making video games. It's so ridiculous. The SJWs running the video game. Well, they're not really running it, but there's just too many of them, and they're too vocal for the industry, and they're given a voice when they really shouldn't be. Tim Schafer from Double Fine had no reason really to be giving a speech, because he should be working on Psychonauts 2 and getting that done. Moving on though, we have a game on Steam called Gladiators Ludius Manager, which looks like it's a RPG Maker game where you're just managing gladiators for $2.99. That's not interesting to me. Okay. And what do we want to do now? We're 14 minutes over. I think we can break up the episodes. I need to play another 20 odd, I think, and get both of those done for Wednesday. But maybe I really don't. But yeah, let's break up this recording here and have 2 episodes at least. I don't know if I really have enough news for a 3rd episode. That's going to be it for this recording though. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.